think more than anything else, the whole concept of virtual versus physical tribes is one of the most interesting things that has been brought out today. But I do say, as we discussed earlier on in the day, that I think the dynamics are the same. The sense of community, the sense of connectivity amongst individuals that then in turn come together around common interests, common passions, common problems and such, all linked with the fact that they have to have a certain amount of physical, and now in the electronic and media world, a virtual connectivity, a virtual similar location to which they connect with one another. It's interesting that what we think about in terms of physical tribes on the ground in Afghanistan or Iraq or any other place in the world really does translate to the virtual world. Because when you connect with one another around ideas, you connect with one another around common interests, and then in turn, I think more than anything else, the whole concept of virtual versus physical tribes is one of the most interesting things that has been brought out today. But I do say, as we discussed earlier on in the day, that I think the dynamics are the same. The sense of community, the sense of connectivity amongst individuals that then in turn come together around common interests, common passions, common problems and such, all linked with the fact that they have to have a certain amount of physical, and now in the electronic and media world, a virtual connectivity, a virtual similar location to which they connect with one another. It's interesting that what we think about in terms of physical tribes on the ground in Afghanistan or Iraq or any other place in the world really does translate to the virtual world. Because when you connect with one another around ideas, you connect with one another around common interests, and then in turn, the social media with the key aspect of social and society in there now are able to bring people together virtually over the internet. I think that probably virtual tribes, simply because they have the ability to connect to a much broader network via the internet and social media than the physical tribes of the world that have to then travel and connect with one another physically in order to communicate their ideas. I think virtual tribes are much more of a powerful influence that we need to contend with today than the physical tribes of the past. I'm Dr. Jim Emery. I'm the Professor for Stability Operations at the U.S. Army Peacekeeping and Stability Operations Institute in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. And as my colleague has already said, we're really a subordinate portion of the U.S. Army War College. We work with the Army War College, particularly as Professor for Stability Operations. I'm focused on education and leader development, but more broadly, not just simply with the Army, but also within the Joint Force, the interagency, inter-organizational, non-governmental organizations, and also working with other academic institutions as well to carry on the discussion about how it is that civil and military assets come together in terms of addressing some of our nation's problems and challenges, mostly in and around violent conflict throughout the world. With respect to today, I think the two major takeaways that I would go back to is, first of all, is the power and breadth and depth of the data that is out there that's available to us. I mean, literally, I did not have a good feel for how much data is out there that can be touched, how it can be analyzed, how we can draw trends from it and such like that, and particularly bringing in a number of the outside non-DoD assets from the civilian community that are literally working with this on a day-to-day basis to do analysis, not only for business but for a number of other purposes, was absolutely fascinating. Had no idea that there was so much out there we could touch in ways that we could touch it. I would say the second thing is, though, even more traditionally, is as much as the world changes in terms of virtual technology, internet, social media, and such like that, the factors that underlie it really have not changed. There are still interest groups that will come together for their own self-interested purposes that then in turn will attempt to use communications to influence other people. Perception and misperception still come into play. The validity of information, testing the validity of information, verifying the fact that it is indeed not only accurate but also useful. all these are the same factors that we've dealt with in traditional communications in the 19th and 20th century as the media started first to come online through mass media publications in the United States and Europe and such like that. Global media through the internet just simply means now that those same factors are in play, but the time factor is dramatically less, the impact is dramatically more, and then in turn the importance, I think, for the United States in terms of getting this right to understand the global impact of a message sent very quickly to diverse groups throughout the globe, and messages and formats and methods that can evoke emotion and passion almost within seconds. I think we really have a long ways to go in terms of trying to really conceptualize the power of that and then develop policy and strategy options to address that threat. First of all, power is as much perceptual as it is physical. Those that have the ability to influence the ideas and perspectives of individuals throughout the world and do it at a pace that just simply outstrips anything that we've ever seen in recent human history, have a market advantage in terms of how it is that they can develop their base of power, maintain their base of power, and then wield it effectively to influence actions amongst individuals throughout the world. In the past, traditionally, what we would have to do is an individual would have to first be known, then they would have to articulate a message, then that message would have to build and achieve buy-in over time. Then in turn, the words would have to be translated into ideas conceptualized and visualized by individuals, spread to other groups that then in turn, those groups bought into the message, and then power had to be carefully developed and spread over time. Now with the internet, what we're seeing in terms of social media, and I use the term social media as media that affects society. Now we have an individual that can be known in a short period of time, communicate their message very effectively and efficiently to broad audiences in a matter of minutes and hours versus days, mobilize sentiment and perceptions around an event of their own choosing, either with actual facts or with misinformation and purposeful misinformation that then in turn now combined with visual images, music, and the tremendous capabilities we have in the digital environment to now fundamentally skip from that initial step of being known and articulating ideas through written word, and then in turn building consensus, understanding, and buy-in over time by small groups and then larger groups. Now we can jump directly from the initial stage of identification, articulation of cause, articulation of points and perspectives, directly into influencing the passion, emotions of individuals through videos, through well-crafted videos, good words and music that then in turn are linked into those in a matter of hours. So we're taking a process that used to take months and years and reducing it to a process now that takes minutes and less than hours. So what we're dealing with now are individuals of relatively little notoriety, little influence that now in turn through the use of the type of social media that affects society and the methods that they're using, they have tremendous influence and power throughout the world to spread their messages to audiences and mobilize perceptions and opinions that you could not have even anticipated 10 years ago.